Clear. When it's over, it's over.
We fully expected to get more warning. I think is the biggest shocker here is that this kind of came overnight. First discussion topic is how did 2H Media experience the end of the program?
Ooh.
We were gearing up for a long weekend. Friday night, the family day weekend. Monday was a holiday. And we got the email from CDAP announcing to Digital Advisors the stream that we participated in was ending.
7 p.m.
Yeah.
Friday, long weekend. A classic entrepreneurial fashion. Aaron and I were still working.
Yep.
And I happened to check my email and I went, oh no.
And so instead of getting to enjoy the long weekend, we were on call.
Yeah, we did some work.
Saturday through Monday, trying to help as many of our clients that we've been working with as possible get into the program before they close the doors, which they did.
On Monday.
On Monday.
On Monday. So like 48-hour notice, which was
Yeah.
little over 40
On the
hours.
Monday of a long weekend.
On the Monday.
So,
the
like-
Friday the long weekend, Monday the long weekend.
There was literally 0 business hours notice,
There were 0 business hours notice. You're right.
right? Because they announced the closing of the program
0 business hours.
after end of day on a Friday, and they
There would have been
Shut the
there would have been
doors.
1 hour business notice in BC.
there you go.
There would have been that would have released at 4 p.m. BC Pacific Standard Time. Negative hours if you're on the East Coast. But in Ontario, yeah, 0. Yep, 0.
Right,
So
'cause they announced it once the weekend had started, and then they fully shut the doors before things open back up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
we called all of our industry partners. We made a lot of calls on Friday night trying to keep everyone in the loop because we weren't sure how well that communication was going to be delivered on Friday. So I caught a lot of people having dinner on Friday, and apologize for interrupting their evening, but that's how it goes. So it wasn't the experience at the end of the program when we found out poor.
yeah,
It was a poor experience all around. That is not the way I was expecting. It could be handled better. If I was going to rate that on a system and be critical of it, everything could have been better.
yeah.
I don't, and that's just the fact of it. That's ridiculous.
Some of the numbers they shared with us in terms of what had been spent versus what the targets were didn't make sense.
Nope.
We can only speculate as to why things are the way
They
are.
have said that they are going to. So in the information we were provided, they had specifically mentioned that there would be more information available in the coming weeks.
Yep.
That doesn't do you a whole lot of good when the program shuts down in a matter of days. But we will see. We'll keep you posted. I'm sure we'll revisit the topic because it is unspent billions. There are billions of dollars that are still unspent because of the numbers that we were provided. So whether or not they roll that into another, who knows what they're going to do with it. But the money that was initially posed for the project is not gone.
But it's no longer available.
But it's no longer available. So if you do have an active, I want to highlight this. If you have an active application with CDAP, you have 9 months from the time that you applied. You'll find your application date in the top right-hand corner within the CDAP portal. So you're still in. Like the article says, it's business as usual, but you must complete the program within 9 months of that date. If you need help with it, you can give us a call. We can walk you through it. Don't miss out on it. It was a great program. I know we're going to get in discussion point 2, but if you're in, please use it. Use the program. It's a fantastic program for what it's worth. Great. It did get some, so into question 2, the program has been criticized for the role of consultants. Is the criticism valid? Let's explain that. The program relies heavily on digital advisors. So we're called CDAP advisors. We had to go through a very lengthy process to become CDAP advisors. Aaron and I had to write resumes. When's the last time you wrote a resume? They did background checks on our education, background checks on the company. We had to submit documents in terms of the strategy components we provide and our previous work and all kinds. It was not like a little fill out a form and you're in. It was a lengthy process to get in. It was a closed ecosystem, so there was about 700 advisors across Canada, spread across all of Canada, all provinces, all territories. So it was a federal program.
Let's talk specifically about where the criticism came.
Yes.
So the way the program was structured is that there were $15,000 grants to build a digital transformation plan. And then in order to implement those plans, the intent was to go get an interest-free loan through BDC and or a $7,300 wage subsidy. Yes. Now, that $15,000 grant, the actual initial chunk of money given to the business, must be used to develop a transformation plan. So you are forced to work with a consultant in order to build a digital adoption plan to outline which technologies are going to move the needle for your business. And then with that plan in hand, you apply for the loan and the wage subsidy.
And that plan needed to be approved by the program. So it wasn't like you could just make a plan willy-nilly. The advisors needed to get the plan approved.
Yes.
So there were multiple checkpoints of the plan.
Now, the major criticism of this approach was that $15,000 in grant money ultimately went to the consultant rather than the business. And people felt that the businesses should have been helped directly instead of creating this cottage industry of consultants. The problem with that, from our perspective as an agency that's been working with businesses through grant programs for many years, is that when you give business owners money to improve their technology, most of them don't know what technology is going to make a real impact on their business. A lot of the time, people have shiny object syndrome, and they're chasing trends that they think are going to move the needle, when really they need an expert to guide their digital transformation based on an understanding of what the technology actually does and how it can fit into their business. It's wild how many people we've been approached by through the smaller stream of CDAP, which is a micro grant program, and through previous micro grant programs for things like email marketing support, digital advertising, search engine optimization, when they've got fundamental problems with their marketing pipelines that will limit the effectiveness of all of these activities that they're asking for. More often than not, people approach us looking for more lead generation when their biggest problem is really a conversion rate challenge on their website. We can push as much traffic as you like into your website, but if it's blocking people from becoming customers, then there's no point in us increasing the amount of traffic. We're better off solving that conversion rate problem than just taking your money to try to push more traffic. Unfortunately, not every agency and not every service provider takes that stance. So it's very common for people to utilize micro grants to kick off projects that they think are a good idea because they don't really understand the marketing infrastructure required to move dollars into their company. And they're working with service providers that are more than happy to take their grant money and implement these solutions that aren't really moving the needle. And so from our perspective, CDAP was a brilliant program. It was really well positioned in the sense that the grant money being used for consulting forces you to build an actual plan. And there were some problems with the execution, which we'll come back to in a bit. But in principle, that grant money being used to develop a plan should put you ahead of all of the people wasting implementation dollars on things that don't help their businesses grow. Now, in addition to the grant money, there's that interest-free loan and the wage subsidy. Well, those are excellent tools as well. The wage subsidy gives you the ability to hire a student worker to come in and implement.
Didn't even need to be a student.
Not the point.
Yep, but
It allowed you to hire a worker to come in and do the heavy lifting to implement long-form products or projects. You know, maybe you need updates to a bunch of the copy text on your website, or you need your products uploaded into your Shopify store. Those dollars were a really effective way of getting those kinds of tasks completed. And then the interest-free loans were an excellent option for kicking off larger technology projects that are going to make more of a difference to your business. And some business owners were hesitant to rely on the loan because that's money that they have to pay back. So ultimately, those expenses are coming out of pocket. But armed with an effective digital transformation plan, the premise is that those technologies you're implementing should create enough impact on the business that they pay for themselves before you've finished repaying the loan. Yeah. And at 0% interest, it does a massive, it's a massively powerful tool in mitigating the risk of adopting new technologies.
Yeah. If you're not willing, so if you need free money to implement your plan, the plan's not good enough.
Right.
Your plan isn't good enough. Whether it's a loan or your own money, $1's a dollar. If you are expecting free dollars to implement it's not a good plan. You should want to do this. Your business should need to do this, and the proof is in the pudding.
So, is the criticism of the role of consultants in this program valid? I don't believe so. But
I think it's a few that ruin it for the many.
I think criticizing the lack of oversight on consultants in the program is extremely valid. And this ties into our third discussion topic. If the program was to be retooled, there's no sign that it's going to be, but if it was going to be retooled and relaunched, what changes would we recommend, having been through the program and worked really hard to create meaningful digital adoption plans? When you're talking about 700 consultants,
For a federal program, 700 is nothing. For the amount of money they had, like managing
in a $700 billion program, when you're talking about
700 is zero.
I believe that every single one of those consultants should have had individual meetings with someone from CDAP.
Oh yeah, there should have been an account manager at CDAP that managed, 25 of those things, 25 of those people, and there was heavy accountability. There was heavy accountability to get in. There needed to be heavy accountability during. Yeah. There should be heavy accountability. They made it very clear there was going to be accountability after, proving all kinds of things. But in the middle, there was nothing. There was very little.
CDAP, or the ICD, released comprehensive guidelines on what elements the transformation plans needed to include. But they didn't specifically release a template document for people to follow. They didn't specifically define the depth each of those sections needed to reach. And they didn't give meaningful guidelines on going beyond the requirements of the transformation or of the adoption plans. And there were certainly CDAP advisors that took advantage of the program and were pumping out plans as quickly as possible with as little effort as possible, and not taking the time to get to know the businesses that they were consulting for. We won't point any fingers, but we've heard complaints about this over and over and over again through industry partners we worked with in the program. And
that's surprising because of the vetting we went through. It's like, this is a really great way to ruin your reputation. This is a really good way to run into the federal government taking a look in your business and going, hey, you violated the terms of the agreement. We had to sign a service agreement to become a CDAP advisor. And in those terms, there's very strong language there that means that you need to do specific things well.
I think it's pretty clear that there was a lack of infrastructure to, for example, review all of the plans that went in to ensure that the appropriate standards were being met. But I think
$4 billion without infrastructure. Yeah, $4 billion infrastructure should be the least one of your worries.
Sure. Again, right? We want the money, as much of the money as possible, reaching the businesses.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to go overboard on the infrastructure either.
No.
But
none is too little.
Like we said, account managers for the advisors working with the program would have made a world of difference. As advisors in the program, we, number one, try to provide as much value as possible for our clients. And number two, we're constantly trying to work to make sure that our plans fit the guidelines of the program perfectly, because we didn't want to lose our advisor status.
Yes. So I'm glad they gave us the minimums. We never were aiming for minimums. It was like, no, the bar's here. We're striving for up here, because we're looking at it going, we're providing value to the business and using those dollars as if they were their dollars.
Yes.
We're taking a long-term approach to going, it was a great customer acquisition tool, because I can go approach a business saying, would you like help with your digital technology? Most businesses are going to say yes. What would you say if we could get some funding from the government to do that, so that we could actually do a really, really good job of it? A phenomenal, it's going to blow your mind. There's going to be a lot of hours spent together. There's a whole process that we've built out. And at the end of it, you're going to be very happy. We got very, very good reviews out of it. And great. And then they're saying, wow, we found a marketing agency that we can trust. Because building trust is very hard in our industry because of the way things are structured, the way things are.
Well, because there's so many agencies doing a poor job.
Doing a poor job. So like businesses are a little apprehensive about like, hey, why do I want to spend my dollars with you? How do I actually form that relationship? But when you can do it in an environment that's a little bit risk-free and then prove that you're good, that was what the whole vetting process was supposed to be. That whole big process was to prove that you're a real business, that you could handle this stuff, that you had a specific area of expertise. And then from what it felt like, so if it was to be retooled, there's got to be, just like if you were to have an employee, you're going to have milestones, you're going to have check-ins, you're going to have progress reports, you're going to understand if they're doing good work.
Well, and again, I don't want to make it too complex.
No, but an account manager would do that.
I mean, at minimum, I would like an account manager that we could book a meeting with once in a while and walk through our process. Yeah, right. I don't feel it needs to be specific KPIs and reporting, because we don't want to get into the world of some of the grant programs where all of the effort is going into bureaucracy. I mean, we don't want it to turn into something like that. We needed more than zero oversight, but I wouldn't want to go too far with it either.
There was clear flags that wouldn't add baggage to the program. People were signing up for the program, and 2 days later, they had a fully completed digital adoption plan. Yeah. You can't do one of these in 2 days. And then it's coming out from the same business. How are they doing 1 or 2 a day?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. There's not enough time to actually understand a business's market needs, current status, what they're good at.
Even if you could condense the required meetings into a 2-day period, which you could do, business owners wouldn't be able to convey the necessary information at that rapid of a pace. So just more back and forth dialogue between people running the program, transparency, and individual consultants, I think would have made a huge difference. Yeah. I would have loved for someone in the program to review and give us feedback on one of our plans. Just one. Yeah, right? They didn't need to do all of them.
No.
But going through that process once, it would have told us a lot in terms of where we stand in the ecosystem and given us a lot of guidance in terms of how we could have improved. Because as much as we worked hard to create great digital adoption plans, we would have been better with more eyes by qualified people on the work. And number 2, it would have told them a lot about our business. Meeting with us, they would see that we had a rigorous process, meeting with the businesses repeatedly, learning about their industry, understanding their goals. And for the people pumping out same-day digital transformation plans just to put people through the program, they'd have seen in a hurry that those people weren't taking the program seriously.
There's ways to do it. So we're somewhat familiar with other government-funded programs like IRAP, and they have account managers. They spend a considerable amount of time with these businesses before the money leaves. The money's more substantial than $15,000, so fine. But even if there was a requirement, so the program to be retooled, I would have loved that account manager to spend at least one meeting with the advisor. So 1 hour. They could do 8 of these a day. 1 hour with the consultant, with the digital advisor and the business as part of the submission process. Walk me through your plan, guys. Tell me what you've done with the $15,000 we gave you.
Yeah, I have no idea what the cost of that infrastructure would be.
I don't know.
Because that's getting more expensive than what I was suggesting in terms of just...
Even 15 minutes. Walk me through the plan, guys. Instead of it just being a digital submission, walk me through the plan.
That would have solved some of our problems on the accounting side.
Holy smokes, it would have.
We had an astonishing number of problems getting invoices accepted by the program. Yeah. In the sense that we would submit our invoices using the same format a dozen times, and it would be accepted. And then suddenly we would get one back complaining about how we had formatted our deposits on the invoice. And any human being looking at the numbers and trying to make sense of them would see very clearly what we charged for the transformation plan and what the participant was trying to claim for their reimbursement, and they would see that those things match. But every now and then we had people confused by the inclusion of a deposit. And it meant that we were constantly trying to figure out how to make our invoices work to get passed by changing perspectives on how this should work. If we'd had a meeting towards the end of the program, like you're suggesting, towards the individual, if we had a submission meeting where we show the plan to someone from the ISED, we could have gotten those invoice questions solved in real time as well.
They could have put out a Loom video about here's what we want.
Yeah.
This is how the invoice must be structured. And option 1, 2, and 3. Like they do that in the other grant program. In CDAP Stream 1, they show you, they give you a breakdown of what is required for submission. Screenshot of a bank statement, credit card transaction. They show you, here's what we need in very easy. None of that was done here. So like if they could have just given a little bit more resource, let alone the hand holding. The hand holding would be sweet. But that I think would have solved a lot of problems, because those people on the back end of CDAP would have say, they're going to start smelling out who's doing what.
Yep.
It's like, how do you not know the business? Like this doesn't make sense. And again, this is all speculation. We don't know how many of these plans were just generated using AI tools and you're done. That's a terrible use of taxpayer funds. It doesn't do any service to the business whatsoever. It's just like, that's not making for a strong Canadian economic system. It's just not. I also don't know how much of that was happening. We had our ears to the ground. So was that 5% of all cases? Was that 50% of all cases? I don't know. But there should be, whenever we're talking about big government spending, there's got to be oversight.
Yeah.
Because we just run into this problem all the time with government spending. Is like, was it effective? Should we run the program again?
And again, I think oversight might be the wrong word for this, because
Accountability.
we're not talking about bean counters going through each plan to find tooth comb to make sure everything is perfect. I think transparency is the better word, because we're talking about a dialogue.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the ISED was pretty good in their email responses. It was, when we had questions about the program, we were usually able to get answers
Fairly quickly. Yeah.
often we would have been able to get more thought out answers if we'd been able to have a conversation instead of just relying on email. I found some of the topics that I tried to get a more solid understanding of required quite an email chain back and forth to make sure we were on the same page.
I would, like, from our perspective, yes, as an advisor, but like for what we took it, this is for how we approach this program and how our business runs. This was the best government grant program we've ever been a part of, and like Aaron said, we've been a part of a lot of them.
Yeah,
It's
like in terms of setting up the businesses participating in the program for success, this has been the best.
This has been the best one. Like we've had businesses go through this from 3-person operations all the way up to 100-person operations, and it's just like, this is what they're looking for. And then not everyone is implementing absolutely everything in the plan, because like, again, things change. So like so this takes time. So priorities shift, things move around, people enter organizations, they leave. But this is like a whole bunch of secure information. There's like, we're removing risk. They're getting an outside perspective. We're training their staff a lot of the times just on all kinds of things. We're taking the time to actually go and say, like, you know what, they're probably already in the middle of something. Why don't we actually walk through that with them, understand what they're doing? Maybe it's the right thing to do, maybe it's not. But like, to give them that confidence, there's huge value there.
Sure.
And then on top of that, those relationships are lasting way longer. So if that program wasn't effective, we would have no relationships. We would have, and I don't know, there's like, of the businesses we've worked with, most of them are now clients, because they go, yeah, we like the way they work. That helps also solve the trust problem in the digital marketing landscape, is who do I trust to help me with this? Because there's a lot of snake oil in the industry. And this was supposed to partially combat that as well.
Sure.
And it right now, without the oversight, I don't think it did, or without the transparency, I don't think it did.
Reining this in is a great program. We would love to see a retool.
I wouldn't.
We've got a lot of great irons in the fire that we won't get into now, but might talk about in future streams.
Oh, big